Words cannot adequately describe the horror that unfolded in Milan, October 8th, 2001. 118 people gone in less than a heartbeat. The worst air disaster in Italian history. It was over in seconds. For the victims, those seconds would be the longest and most terrifying of their lives. Firefighters battled the flames for hours, but it was hopeless. The wreckage burned deep into the fog. A collision so violent, rescuers said the planes were unrecognizable. As news spread across Europe, one question echoed everywhere. How could two modern aircraft collide on the same runway in broad daylight? What went wrong inside that thick, deadly fog? And who was to blame? Only later would investigators uncover the web of confusion, mistakes, and broken systems that led to disaster. It wasn't terrorism. It wasn't sabotage. It was something far worse. Ordinary human error hiding in the mist. The story begins at 8:06 a.m. Scandinavian Airlines. Flight 686, an MD-87, bound for Copenhagen, waits for clearance. Engines roar to life. The crew is calm, experienced, ready. At the same time, a small Cessna Citation jet begins to taxi. 4 businessmen on board, visibility near zero. The fog swallows the runway. The pilots can barely see the ground beneath them. And somewhere inside that white wall, 2 aircraft, one massive, one tiny, are moving closer. Neither can see the other. Neither knows they're seconds away from disaster. The fog was alive that morning. It crawled across the tarmac. It smothered the lights. It swallowed sound. At Linate Airport, you couldn't see more than a few feet ahead. Controllers in the tower stared into nothing, their ground radar broken for years. They had no eyes on the planes below, only voices crackling through static. 8:09 a.m. Scandinavian Airlines, Flight 686, gets clearance to line up for takeoff. Captain Stefan Rasmussen acknowledges. Calm, professional. He's done this 1,000 times, but never like this. At the same time, a small Cessna Citation jet begins to taxi toward the same runway. 2 pilots inside. Disoriented, lost in the fog. They think they're following the correct taxiway. They're not. Signs meant to guide them are faded. Markings on the ground, confusing. And the controller's words, vague. No one realizes they're heading straight toward the active runway. Inside the tower, someone notices a hesitation, a short radio call, then silence. No alarms, no warnings, just fog and fatal assumption. Flight 686 powers up its engines. The MD-87 thunders forward, invisible in the mist. The pilots focus ahead, unaware of the tiny jet already on the same path. 2 planes, 1 runway. No visibility, no second chances. As the MD-87 accelerates, its nose slicing through the fog, the crew has no idea that death is waiting just 1,000 meters ahead. Hidden in the white, 8. The roar of the MD-87 builds to a scream. Engines at full thrust. The aircraft surges forward, 150 passengers, crew in a wall of fog ahead. In the cockpit, Captain Rasmussen calls out speeds. V1. Rotate. The jet lifts its nose, but just ahead, less than a heartbeat away, the Cessna Citation sits directly on the runway. The pilots inside never see the approaching monster. The MD-87's crew never sees them either. And then, in a sound like thunder tearing the sky apart, the MD-87's left engine and landing gear slice through the smaller jet. Metal against metal. Fuel ignites instantly. A fireball erupts inside the fog. Both planes disintegrate. The Cessna vanishes, shredded in an instant. The MD-87, crippled, keeps going. Momentum drags it down the runway. Flaming debris trailing behind. Inside the Scandinavian jet, chaos. The cabin fills with smoke. Screams echo. Passengers are thrown against seats, walls, the ceiling. The right engine loses power. The plane veers violently left. Through the fog, it slides off the runway, across grass, over taxiways. The pilots fight to regain control, but it's useless. The MD-87 smashes into a baggage hangar. Inside are airport workers starting their day. They never stand a chance. The explosion shakes the ground. Flames engulf the hangar. Steel collapses. For minutes, nothing but fire and silence. Then, distant alarms. Fire trucks rush through the fog, sirens wailing. But they can't see the wreckage. They can't even find it. It takes them over 20 minutes to locate the burning remains of Flight 686. When they finally arrive, they find nothing but twisted metal and ash. No survivors. Everyone on board, gone. Everyone in the Cessna, gone. 4 airport workers gone. 118 souls, lost in less than 30 seconds. The fog lifts slowly, revealing the horror beneath. 2 planes reduced to fragments. The tail of the MD-87 buried in rubble. Luggage and bodies scattered across the runway. To witnesses, it looks impossible. How could 2 aircraft collide at a modern airport in 2001? How could no one see them coming? But the answer isn't just in the fog. It's buried deeper, in years of negligence, outdated systems, and fatal complacency. A disaster that didn't need to happen. A tragedy built, step by step, mistake by mistake. The investigation would reveal the truth, and it would shake Italy's aviation system to its core. When the smoke cleared, investigators faced a night. 2 aircraft destroyed. A runway littered with fragments and fire-scorched metal. Fog still hanging over the wreckage, like a ghost that refused to leave. At first, nobody could understand it. How could 2 planes collide on a runway in one of Europe's busiest cities? This wasn't the 1960s, this was 2001, an era of advanced systems, modern procedures, and strict control. Something had gone terribly, unforgivably wrong. Investigators from Italy's AMZ, along with experts from Sweden and Denmark, arrived within hours. The evidence spoke in pieces. Black boxes buried under twisted wreckage. Flight paths recorded in half-finished data. But one thing became clear very fast. Visibility wasn't the only killer that day. The Cessna crew had been cleared to taxi to the main runway. But the signs on the taxiways, all faded, misleading. The airport's ground radar, broken, and had been for years. Controllers, blind to the aircraft's positions, relied on instinct and luck. Inside the control tower, radio transcripts painted a chilling picture. The Cessna's pilots reported their position, believing they were on taxiway R6, but they weren't. They had mistakenly entered runway 36 or the same one assigned for Flight 686's takeoff. And no one in the tower realized it. There was no surface movement radar to warn them, no ground sensors, no safety net. Investigators called it a chain of errors. Each small, almost invisible, but together, catastrophic. Airport procedures were outdated. Training was inconsistent. Communication between tower and pilots, full of confusion and assumption. And the fog, it only made every weakness deadly. One investigator described it as an accident, waiting to happen. And on October 8, 2001, it did. The Cessna's crew had done what they believed was correct. The tower had issued clearances it believed were safe. Flight 686 pilots followed every rule. Yet the system failed them all. It was a tragedy, not born of recklessness, but of neglect. Warnings had been ignored, upgrades postponed, maintenance delayed, lives lost because of bureaucracy and complacency. When the findings were released, they shocked the aviation world. Linate Airport had no functioning ground radar. Signage and markings violated international safety standards, and the controllers had no tool to confirm where aircraft actually were. The result? 118 people dead, a preventable catastrophe that changed aviation safety across Europe. The victims' families demanded justice, the world demanded answers, and Italy's aviation system forever changed. But amid the anger and reform, one haunting truth remained. Had any single safeguard worked that morning? Just one. Those two planes would never have met in the fog. Out of the fog came silence. Not the quiet of peace, but the heavy stillness that follows catastrophe. Linate Airport was closed, the runways empty. The smell of burnt fuel still lingered days later. The nation mourned. Funerals filled Milan's churches. Families stood with photos, flowers, and unanswered questions. How could this happen here, in a modern airport, in 2001? For investigators and lawmakers, the answer was painful but clear. Complacency kills. Systems fail when no one checks them. And the smallest human mistake, left uncorrected, can destroy everything. The tragedy at Linate forced Europe to act. Ground radar was finally installed. Taxiway markings and signage were replaced across Italy. New communication protocols became law. Never again would pilots be left blind in the fog. But rules and systems can't erase what happened. For the families, the pain never fades. For the pilots who watched the footage, the lesson is burned into memory. Aviation is not just machines and checklists. It's trust, awareness, precision. 118 people lost their lives that morning. Businessmen, mothers, children, crew, all gone because of a chain of tiny failures and a fog that hid them all. Every air crash leaves behind something, not just debris, but a message, a warning whispered through time. That morning in Milan, the warning was written in smoke. You can't see what you don't prepare for. You can't assume safety when systems are broken. Today, Linate Airport is safer. Pilots taxi through dense fog with guidance the 2001 crews never had. Every time a controller clears a plane for takeoff, they remember Linate. Every time a radar blip moves on a screen, someone knows this technology exists. Because of them, the victims of Flight 686 and the Cessna didn't die in vain. Their loss changed aviation forever. Fog, confusion, and silence turned into reform, awareness, and life. And that is the true legacy of Linate Airport. October 8th, 2001, the day the fog took everything and taught the world never to forget. If this story moved you, don't let it fade into the fog. Every crash you learn about, every mistake investigated, saves future lives. Your awareness matters. So before you go, hit subscribe. Because here, we tell the stories that changed aviation forever. The ones written in fire, silence, and survival. Like this video. Share it, and let others know what really happened in that fog over Milan. Because remembering isn't just history, it's prevention. And together, we make sure tragedies like Flight 686 are never repeated.